How's it going, everybody? I want to go over another really sad story that is coming out in the gaming industry right now. It actually happened a couple weeks ago, and you know, a lot of people are talking about how 2023 is one of the greatest years of gaming in recent memory, and I have to agree with that if you just look at the sheer quality of the games that are coming out. There are so many high-quality games being released, from Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Final Fantasy 16, Street Fighter 6. I can go on, and this just off the top of my head. You can go to Armored Core 6. You could go to a game like Immortals of Aveum, which I actually thought was a pretty decent game. However, going into the release of this game, I was very concerned on a couple aspects of the game. First of all, it was a brand new IP being released and published by EA, and with that, it was a game that, while it looked incredibly flashy from a visual standpoint and gameplay standpoint, a lot of the dialogue, a lot of the voice acting left a lot to be desired, and more than anything, it was one of those games that it wasn't new IP, it wasn't that hotly anticipated, and it released at $70, and this is something that I'm going to bring up over and over again. Some games can get away with that $70 price tag, and maybe it's not that big of a difference going from 60 to 70. Would Immortals of Aveum done a lot better if it was $60? I don't know, but I do know that $70 for a game like this is going to push people away even more, and we'll talk about that in a second and my overall thoughts on the game because I did play it and complete it and I had a pretty good time with it, but there is going to be a story attached to these games when they do underperform, and that is the fact that unfortunately from a studio standpoint, layoffs can happen, and Ascendant Studio, the studio that their debut title was Immortals of Aveum, think about that pressure to do a big budget title like that. And it was officially announced today. We are heartbroken as we part ways with friends and colleagues at Ascendant Studios. About 45% of our team. This was a painfully difficult but necessary decision that was not made lightly. Nevertheless, we have to make this adjustment now that Immortals of Aveum has shipped. We are supporting those affected in every way we can, including comprehensive severance packages and job placement assistance, as well as support services for those who remain. If your studio is looking for proven Unreal Engine 5 artists and engineers, please reach out and let us know so we can introduce you to some incredibly talented game devs. I'm so proud of what our independent development team has accomplished with Immortals of Aveum. Together, we've created a new AAA studio, a new IP, on new technology during an era of our industry when that is exceedingly rare. We've poured our passion into Immortals while wearing our hearts on our sleeve. The studio will continue to work that way as we support the development of this game and our Immortals IP moving forward with future updates and offers. It will be interesting to see if this game actually gets a follow-up title. But it continues to my team reading this message, especially those leaving us. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your invaluable contributions to Ascendant's culture and your tremendous impact on bringing Immortals of Aveum to life. We wish you nothing but best success in the next chapter of your careers. Please stay in touch. That is coming from Brett Robbins, the CEO of Ascendant Studio. This is a significant number of layoffs that have happened with the studio. And I don't know if it's entirely tied to the success level of Immortals of Aveum. You actually can't do that. But the reality remains that these games have, in my opinion, unrealistic standards and unrealistic expectations. Now, at the end of the day, if this game was scaled back, would these jobs have been created within Ascendant Studios in the first place? Would there have been these employment opportunities if these games didn't get bigger and bigger? I don't know how the industry works like that, but I would have to think no. But let's just talk on the standpoint of a game like this failing to perform. And we've seen this story play out quite a few times in the last year. Let's talk about Callisto Protocol. I bring that up all the time and how that game flopped. Forspoken was another big flop, and you saw what happened to Luminous Productions, and now Immortals of Aveum is another one. And those aren't the only three. Those are the three that really stand out to me as far as all three of those games being new IPs and unfortunately not delivering at a high level. With Immortals of Aveum, it's a part of the EA Originals label, and mind you, EA Originals also published Wild Hearts. We don't have any idea of sales numbers for that game, but Wild Hearts is a game that's also ending support here very shortly, less than a year after release, when that was supposed to be a Monster Hunter style game that was, you would think, be updated and kept alive for quite a while. That is not going to be the case with Wild Hearts either. Another EA Originals published title. Oh, by the way, another game that was priced at $70. But in the case of Wild Hearts, that game has a sizable amount of content. Immortals of Aveum, I always thought when looking at it that a $70 price tag for it was going to be a really, really hard sell. It's a brand new IP. It's a game that isn't super lengthy, and I'm not saying that that is all that matters in gaming, but a new IP, not super lengthy, voice acting doesn't sound the best, the narrative is an issue with this game as well. That unfortunately left the game at a point where I was just like, man, 70 bucks is gonna be a hard sell for a lot of people, and generally speaking, the reviews for the game were, I would say, mostly positive, but the issue is mostly positive isn't good enough anymore. What's Immortals of Aveum at Metacritic? Okay, so it's at a 69, so pretty close to a 70. And the Xbox version is actually at a 76, the PlayStation 5 is at a 69, and the PC version's at a 65. The PC version had a lot of technical issues, so I think that's where that 65 is derived from. But let's say 70. PlayStation 5 and Xbox version, let's take, you know, let's just call it a 70. That's a fairly decent score. Like, a 70 is not bad, but a 70 isn't enough to sell a $70 game. That is just the reality of the situation. A 70 can be good, and it could be a game that, you know, is a fine playthrough, and people can be like, you know, oh, I think this game's underrated, etc., etc. But when you're talking about parting ways with $70, and more important than $70 in this day and age, you're parting away with your time. You are investing your time into a game when that time can be spent in other games. I know I also speak about this game being a shorter game, but at the same time, there's this comparison of, is it worth my time? Is it worth my investment? How much content am I going to get out of it? But the value proposition isn't just about the length of the game, it's length and quality. And if you're talking about a shorter game, let's take a Spider-Man 2, we're talking 17 to 25 hours for that game for the main story. That game's gonna do very well at $70. We're not gonna have to worry about that game being $70, guys. It's different with Immortals of Aveum being a new IP, and I think a big issue is these grandiose in budget big titles that do have lofty expectations, and unfortunately, it's gonna be very difficult for the majority of them to hit them. Callisto Protocol sold 2 million copies, and that game was deemed a flop. Forspoken, they got some money from Sony, if nothing else. And, you know, Immortals of Aveum, we don't have sales numbers, but when you're laying off staff like that, I imagine it didn't turn out that well. Also, there was the instance of this game being delayed into the end of August, right around Armored Core 6 and the big wave of games coming out. That was certainly an issue. Would this game have done a lot better in July? I don't think so, but we'll never know. That's more of a, you know, what-if scenario, but we'll never know. But I really don't believe the game would have done that much better, even if it did come out in July. It's right after Baldur's Gate as well on PC. Yeah, you can make the argument some of those things did hurt the game, and I certainly agree when you're talking about in October and games moving out of October that it's a good idea, but I think Immortals of Aveum, there were issues rooted deeper than that, and it's just unfortunate. The biggest thing is, unfortunate for the people that lost their jobs, and hopefully they find their footing. Now, this story did break about two or so weeks ago, so, you know, it's a little bit of an older story, but I've been wanting to cover it for a while. And as far as my thoughts on Immortals of Aveum, I thought from a gameplay standpoint, it was super enjoyable, fast-paced combat, the magical abilities were really cool, customization was decent, but yeah, playing the game, I was like, yeah, I can understand why people wouldn't want to drop $70 on this game, and that's going to be an issue with a lot of games. I look at a game coming out that I think looks pretty good, Banisher's Ghost of New Eden. They just delayed that game from November into February, and the reasoning they gave was to avoid big game releases, but February is like stacked with new games, so I don't really know how that's going to work, but nevertheless, Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, that's another new IP, looks good, $70 is going to be a little, and I saw Immortals of Aveum went on sale today for $40 over on Amazon. I think it's out of stock right now or something like that, so good if they got to sell some copies. But a lot of it was a tweet, and a lot of the thread was just like, we're waiting until under $10 for this game, and then I'm just like, yeah, that's gonna be an issue going forward. Like, I'm an advocate for waiting for sales on games because I have the best interest of the consumer in mind, and I know not everybody's gonna be dropping 70 bucks on every game that's coming out, and you gotta pick and choose your battles. But for games that are like an Immortals of Aveum, maybe it would have been a better idea to scale this game back a little bit, prioritize on the fast-paced magical gameplay, but at the same time, there are games like that out there, and maybe they were going for a more big-budget, you know, AAA experience to really win people over. Nonetheless, it's just something I want to talk about. Same story as Callisto Protocol, but something definitely to monitor in gaming. And I know Sean Layden's been very vocal on Twitter about how there's gonna have to be a breaking point when it comes to games being too expensive to make and then the price point being what it is. I do think that games don't need to be this expensive. They don't need to be this big. I think some games are fine if you're confident they can sell well, like a Horizon, a Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead. Those games are gonna do well, but you know, some of these other titles, it's just a very, very risky endeavor for all involved. But that'll do it for me. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.